2, 3, go. Okay, I appreciated the Japanese influence there. This I think this next part is not going to go on the podcast, but I remember I took Japanese in college because I'm a big old weeb, and so my teacher, just one day he just like looked slyly at us. He was just like this, just like very dad energy. He's a Japanese guy, Sakakibara sensei, but he was like, I will teach you something very valuable. In Japan, when orgasming, people don't say "I'm coming"; they say "iku," which means I'm going, as in I'm going to heaven.
Yep.
And we were all like,
"That is accurate.
That is useful."
Yeah, this is how we open the podcast.
Okay.
Welcome to Japanese idioms with
Okay, very good.
Welcome to IMMERSION.
Yeah, and sorry for putting you on notice, Sakakibara Sensei. I appreciated your teachings,
especially that last one.
Yeah, the last one has been super useful to me personally. Okay, so everyone, welcome to GameBusters. We are a podcast from GameLuster.com. If you are new here, each week we're going to do a deep dive into a game or franchise we love, or maybe we just want to talk about. So everything's horrible and serious. Don't look outside the window. Just close your eyes. If you're driving a car, don't close your eyes, though.
Hook yourself up to the nearest Animus and go back to a happier time.
Ooh, that could be good. Yeah, a time before Twitter was invented. Something like that would be good.
Yeah.
So I am Nirav, and I am your host. And our special guests today are Tim and Axel from GameLuster. Say hi, guys.
Nothing is forbidden. Everything is permitted.
Jesus Christ. I was promised this wouldn't happen. Let's just talk about the Assassin's Creed movie a little bit. I'd love to discuss it. Tim, you seem to have some thoughts. Please.
I loved this movie. It was terrible, but it was great, especially because Magneto was the main character. Not Michael Fassbender, but he was playing the exact same character as Magneto in the Days of Future Past film.
Yeah, like before he gets his... Or like, you know, like when he's not in the suit, yeah, it's pretty much the same exact guy, for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it was like... It couldn't tell if it wanted to be the first Assassin's Creed, the second Assassin's Creed, or its own thing, and so it split the difference and was all three of those things at once, and it failed hilariously.
Yeah, the way I would describe it is like, it was a movie for nobody.
Yeah, no. I would not call... It was not a successful movie, it was not a good movie, but it was a fun movie to watch. It was a spectacle, and on that I appreciated it.
It definitely falls right in the middle of, like, video game movies, which are pretty much notoriously bad, but, like, it's right in the middle there, so it's not anywhere near the worst one.
Yeah, no, the thing is, it didn't have the usual video game movie failings, but it did have the big concept with, like, nothing really to say. Like, it was a B-movie in that sense, rather than a video game movie.
I was interested in their bold decision to spend 45 minutes of the movie in the modern day. Everyone's favorite part of Assassin's Creed.
I mean, there's a lot of fun things you can do in the modern day, but neither Assassin's Creed nor the movie have ever decided to do anything fun with it. Like, give us skyscraper fucking parkour. I shouldn't be swearing. You can bleep that. Oh
no, if it's after the first minute, it's okay.
Okay, yeah. But yeah, give us skyscraper parkour. You kind of got there. Like, you realized in 3 that the forest wasn't working. You kind of got there with the Victorian and the Paris ones. Though Paris had its own problems.
Unity,
but you kind of, sort of went in the other direction with the most recent 2. And gave big open, spaces. But at least you did better hiding in those. So,
yeah. Axel, have you seen the movie?
No. Unfortunately, I have been. I was trying to avoid it for a long time because, Jesus, the history of video game movies is so god awful that you kind of look at it and you say, I want to stay as far away from this nightmare as humanly possible.
But what do you have against the Double Dragon movie, or the Street Fighter movie, or the Mortal Kombat movie, or the other Mortal Kombat movie, or the Street Fighter animated series, or the Mortal Kombat animated series, or the Mega Man animated series?
I think the original Mortal Kombat was like one of those bad, but it's charming kind of things.
Yeah.
Like,
It was.
Uh,
It was one
also,
of those
I think
ones
it's
that
just-
didn't take it didn't take itself seriously or too seriously. You kind of it knew that the premise was completely bonkers. It was completely unrealistic, and it was perfectly okay playing in that space.
Yeah. Half the people in the Street Fighter movie recognized that. Jean-Claude Van Damme was not one of them. Raul Julia was.
Yeah, Raul Julia chewed up the scenery, and he loved it, even though he was dying. You know.
Oh yeah, no, he got to play a giant ham. He got to take his family on a vacation, and he left them with a huge paycheck. He was a win-win for him.
Yeah, it really was. But you know, I think the nadir for video game movies is still Super Mario Brothers, and
or is it the apex? I feel bad that I think the apex of video game movies is still somehow Detective Pikachu, which was
Actually,
like a 7 at best.
Yeah,
like
because it actually gave a crap about its subject matter, and it adapted it smartly.
Yeah. And like I enjoyed Sonic the Hedgehog enough. I mean, like I think that one is different.
To see that one.
It's good and fun, but it is very, very much targeted at kids who don't know who Sonic is, rather than like Detective Pikachu is for like, you know, adults who grew up with it, you know. Like,
well, I'd say Detective Pikachu is absolutely a family movie,
yeah,
but has enough aimed at adults.
Yeah. I think and
the
Sonic,
entire
like I
Mr.
said,
Mime segment is 100% aimed at adults with enough for kids to laugh at.
Anyway, make better movies, guys. Let's see how Uncharted does. I am not.
I mean, they're. I don't
like
know
Spider-Man.
if Tom Holland is a great fit to even as young Nate.
Yeah.
Obviously, Nathan Fillion would have been amazing, but about 10 years ago. So.
Right, it's much too late, and the short film they did was like it's still really incredible. Like I don't know. I don't think there's. I mean, like the Witcher TV show is a whole different thing. I think that worked out pretty well.
There's still some issues with it, but that's mostly to do with like
pacing
oversimplifying and pacing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like It sort of compresses about 20 years of Geralt's adventuring into what seems like a couple, because also they completely changed the order of things. Like they made the Butcher of Lavacan first instead of near the end. You know, but that was also so that they could, you know, introduce Jaskier to him in a different way and have their dynamic be totally different. Because in the books and the stories, they're 100% the bestest of friends. So
right,
as opposed to the, you know, the Gur are angry of Showgirl.
Yeah. Fuck.
Yeah.
So yeah, I let's just end this with a pledge for video game movies to be better.
Agreed.
It's almost like you should just try to adapt the source material and just do that like you would with maybe a book or anything else. I don't know.
So, you know,
on that note, do book adaptations better.
You know, Hellraiser, Jurassic Park, stuff like that.
There's some really good ones too. I mean, I think book adaptations are probably kind of split down the middle, good and bad.
Yeah, it all depends.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah, I would venture, like, I wouldn't say it's like strictly better, but I think the like Lord of the Rings movies are a lot more enjoyable than the books. For me at least. I read the
I wouldn't
first
say they're
book
more
and-
enjoyable, but I would say that there's a reason for the first three to exist and the first of the Hobbit.
Yeah, the Hobbit is still
the Hobbit got away from us.
Yeah.
No, the Hobbit got away from Peter Jackson.
Yeah.
They also told him make it a trilogy.
Yeah,
and he was like, I was thinking of 2. No, make it a trilogy.
No, 3. And put a big dune sandworm in it. Yeah, that was actually the best part of the last movie. So never mind. Yeah, I think that. Have you guys seen that fan cut of like all 3 of the movies into one thing? It's called like J.R.R. Tolkien's The Hobbit.
I have not.
I think
it is very well. It's very well cut. It cuts out pretty much all the extraneous stuff and makes it stick to like the story of the Hobbit, and you know keeps in like some of the smaller things they added. But like it condenses it into about a 4-hour thing.
That's not bad.
From like about 9 hours of movie, so that's pretty good.
Well, we're momentarily on the subject of fan recuts. Have you heard of the Chronological MCU project?
I have not.
It's I think the way that they did it is a bit ridiculous, but it is a gigantic supercut, about 23 hours long, of all of the scenes of the MCU in chronological order. And it's it takes about, I want to say, until like hour 3 to get to the chronological end of any movie. Because it goes a little bit of Thor, most of Captain America, most of Captain Marvel, bits and bits and bits and bits and bits and bits. Finally, the end of a movie.
Wow. And then there's maybe like a blip where like Doctor Strange goes like 3,000 years in the future right at the end.
Yeah.
Very cool. All right, well, let's jump into the Hall of Fameluster. I had kind of fun with this one. Let me sort of like rephrase what I'm saying here to make it clear. So today we're gonna try and I was thinking about with Assassin's Creed, like, we have all these historical figures showing up in the games. Which historical figure would you go back in time to assassinate to disrupt the world like at the most? Like, what could you do to like make absolute chaos? Which one person would you assassinate?
Well, obviously we'd have to go back and assassinate known historical figure as proven by his presence in the Animus, Ardyn to prove that he existed.
Okay, that's yeah. Well, is that like real? Is that really maximum chaos though?
I mean, proving that a character from a Final Fantasy historically existed, I think would mess with a hell of a lot of people's heads.
You're right.
Or any of the Minotaur or any of the monsters from Odyssey.
Yeah, that's fair. I think that. Okay. I see what you're saying. All right, nice. Axel, what are you thinking?
Oh, so many people, so little time.
Yeah, you just get the one-time knife. So
yeah, I know that's what makes it so hard.
The other obvious answer is the Archduke Franz Ferdinand, but somebody beat me to it.
Everybody wants to go back and kill Hitler, and it's like that's weak sauce.
Send Hitler to art school. Get him a scholarship.
If I was absolutely
kill Gobbles. Are you kidding?
Yeah.
If I was going to go back in time and assassinate one person, that would probably have to be Julia Agrippina.
Okay.
At
what point?
Me who that is?
She was a figure in Roman history. She was she holds the distinction of being the daughter, the mother, and the wife of an emperor. Not all at the same time, quite.
And not all the same emperor.
Yeah.
Just to be clear.
Yeah. She would give birth to, if I remember, she gave birth to Caligula. She was married to
one of the Claudiuses.
Yeah,
I believe.
Yeah, she's
let's look this up.
Yeah, Julia
or several.
Yeah, Julia Agrippina.
Yes. Yeah, married to Nero.
Yeah, she.
okay.
Yeah,
all right.
Caligula was her.
Germanicus was her dad.
Yeah,
and
Caligula was her brother. Nero was her son. It all gets really
the imperial dynasty of Rome at that point was very tight. Maybe a little too tight, maybe a little inbred. We're not sure, we can't prove it, but we suspect.
But yeah, if I was going to be assassinating anybody, it would probably be her, if only because it would undoubtedly prevent Nero from coming to the throne.
Okay, that's fair.
So would you do it before he was born?
Yeah, that's probably a safe bet, considering she did a lot of damage even before he was born. Getting her young, even before she had an an influence on Caligula would probably be a good idea from a historical perspective, because it would undoubtedly change the entire character of the later Roman Empire.
Okay. Oh, wait, hold on. I had a thing. If I was any more inbred, I'd be a sandwich. Okay, very good. Okay, that does sound like pretty chaotic. My thought was just for I think for long-term effect, I would go back in time and kill Shakespeare before he started writing any plays, because roughly a third of our common language is attributed to him inventing it. We would just not have any words right now.
We'd have completely different words.
We'd have new words. That's pretty chaotic.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
I mean, Blugleporp. That's podcast.
What are you talking about? What podcast?
Also, we would never have the lovely romantic comedy Shakespeare in Love. Isn't that chaotic?
You're right. We do have to go back and kill him.
Oh, also no Lion King without Hamlet. This is a bad place.
Yeah. No Kimba the White Lion either.
No, yeah. Fair enough.
But then again, Christopher Marlowe would probably have done his own adaptations and might have come up with similar words. Might have avoided that bar fight and that got him killed. You never know.
Yeah. They could have
Maybe
just...
we'd be, sarcastically calling people Marlowe when they write bad stuff today.
Yeah. All right. So let's do some votes. So usual, we have 2 votes apiece, and you can vote for your own. Where are you guys gonna go? So Tim, what you thinking?
Well, obviously, I have to vote for Ardyn Izunia.
Yeah.
Just, and just in general, him or any of the monsters that have canonically shown up in the Animus, but also Julia Agrippina, because vote for monsters.
Oh, okay, got it. All right, Axel, what are you thinking?
I'm gonna have to throw both votes to Julia, because I've
never had anyone do that before. I guess I never made a rule before, so sure.
Yeah, and also I'm kind of a theater kid who likes Shakespeare, so I was the only kid in high school who laughed at the jokes that Shakespeare wrote into all of his plays. So.
Okay.
Shakespeare had a great sense of humor.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. All right. I'm gonna throw one in for Shakespeare, but I am gonna also do one for Ardyn, just because I love the idea of proving somebody exists by going back in time to assassinate them.
Yeah.
It's creative. But because Axel found a loophole in our rule set, he is the winner. So Julia Agrippina, so long.
So ironically,
so
you've
nice
preserved her life forever because she is entered into the Hall of GameLuster.
Yes.
You fool.
Which is its own sort of Valhalla.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Let's move on to the main meat of the story here, Bustums. So today we are talking about the Assassin's Creed series. So just a little bit quick history about it. Assassin's Creed is an action-adventure stealth game, I'm sure you know. Was jointly created by Patrice Désilets, Jade Raymond, and Corey May. The story was heavily inspired by a Slovenian novel called Alamut by Vladimir Bartol, while the mechanics were obviously just Prince of Persia.
It's Prince of Persia in a white hood.
It actually did start out as Prince of Persia, by the way. I read in...
That is no surprise to me at all.
Yeah,
I was come off of a big rush of Prince of Persia games. Except the last one didn't sell so well, so they changed it probably halfway through.
So interesting way this game started was that they started a Prince of Persia game where you did not play as the Prince of Persia. You played as a hired mercenary who was escorting him the entire game. The game was one gigantic escort mission. And
so it was a Prince of Persia game.
Yeah, I guess so.
You just weren't the prince.
Exactly.
Escorting somebody else.
Yeah. You still had to do all the Prince of Persia stuff. You just weren't the prince. And so about a third of the way through, they realized it wasn't fun. And so they started to rework it. And when I say heavily influenced, this novel, this Slovenian novel, Alamut, is literally the plot of Assassin's Creed. in that there is an order of Templars and Assassins from a long time ago that have been controlling all world events, and all wars are wars between them.
Well, I mean, that's a well-tread conspiracy theory.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the first game began development in 2004, and it actually, hilariously, was originally planned for the PlayStation 2, but it didn't run on the PlayStation 2. So they actually Ubisoft like stalled the game for about 6 months until the PS3 came out. And yeah, I mean that's kind of cool. You want your next gen games, right? But yeah, the first game did eventually release in 2007, and so this led to the idea, of the Assassins and the Templars clashing throughout history, and then there's these artifacts that give everyone powers to do, I guess, whatever they need at the time of the plot. The Pieces of Eden, which are, the artifacts that everyone's after because it lets you kill a bunch of people or also control people and also read minds. It's unclear. Really whatever you kind of need at the moment. But yeah, first game was a relative success. Enough of a success to garner a sequel. Nothing like breakout or huge. But this first game took place in 1191 during the Third Crusade in Jerusalem, and then in the present day they had this story with Desmond, and he's fighting off Abstergo Industries, who is like the remnants of the Templars. So I just want to know what are you guys' thoughts on the first Assassin's Creed? Like I've only like dipped into it a little bit. I've read the story and I like have played a little bit of it, but I feel like by the time I got to it, the game mechanics were a little too outdated for me to enjoy.
Well, I played it when it came out, and
Okay.
They were already kind of a little weird and dated by then, especially, like, not overall, but just some weird, like, design choices forcing you to go back in and out of the Animus at, specific points. Though there wasn't much of a point to it. They much better
That sounds a lot like the recent ones.
Yeah, well, I was thinking that Black Flag and one of the later Ezio ones did the integration of like real world plot points a lot better in
Yeah,
the Animus
I think
itself.
so. I agree.
Because there were points where you just were forced out of the Animus to have a talking scene, and then you had to wander around for a bit, go into a room, and go back. And it's sort of in the purpose for a surprise at the end, but there's a lot of unnecessary walking. Also, Kristen Bell is in it, and it's hilarious in retrospect. Because Desmond, you were in the bad. But yeah,
I did not know that.
What's her name? Lucy, I think.
Yeah,
the one that gets ganked later. Yeah, they ganked her because Kristen Bell became too expensive.
Yeah,
100%. I'm sure that's what happened. Why the character got written out.
That's funny.
Yeah. For me, when I played Assassin's Creed for the first time, and I got about halfway through it, I think part of my discontent with it was the way everything was, was hyped up as an open world sort of scenario, and you were blocked off from most everything. There
was so much city, and yet you couldn't explore so much of it until the very, very end.
Yeah, it was very heavily gated, and that just drove me completely bonkers. And also having to go around to find all the various feathers and whatnot was.
Oh yeah, in part 2.
No, the first.
Oh right, the feathers were in the first one. They just didn't do much of anything, did they?
If I remember correctly, I thought the feathers were tied to increasing your life bar.
That might be it.
And being somebody who wanted to make sure that I didn't die a horrible death at the time, I figured, okay, yeah, let's collect the feathers, let's build up that little insurance policy, and it was just a pain in the ass.
Oh yeah, now I remember. Yeah, because God, so many of them were in the weirdest places, and a lot of them were out over the water, and Altair cannot swim.
Yeah, you can't swim, you can't dive into the water, you can't do anything. It's like you're committing suicide just if you're anywhere near a body of water bigger than a horse trough.
Yeah. Also, Do you remember that initial reveal trailer?
No,
Do you remember the crossbow that he had in it? That showed up in it was like 3-4 games later when we finally got the crossbow.
Wasn't there a problem with one of the games where they actually added the crossbow and people got mad because the crossbow didn't exist at that time in history? I am 100% sure that happened. I don't remember which game it was for, though. Hold on. Let me see here. The crossbow was removed from Assassin's Creed 1. Oh, okay.
No, they just never actually finished it, is the thing. They were hyping it up in the thing, and I think the people said that it didn't exist was them covering their butt later.
Oh, that's possible, yeah. They did give that reason. They said, like, oh, well, after this trailer, we realized it didn't exist. People made a complaint, so we took it out, but I think I agree with you. But yeah, let's move on to... So Assassin's Creed 2, of course, is the big boy. Was a huge success, critically and commercially, and it spawned 2 direct sequels to that specific story, in sort of a Final Fantasy X-2 situation.
Yeah.
Which is insane. I'm glad they didn't call it that. Assassin's Creed 2. But yeah, Brotherhood and Revelations were the follow-ups, and that was a trilogy about the story of Ezio in the past, and then, Desmond Miles in the present day. This is, yeah. Sorry?
Desmond? No, there's no Desmond. There is only Ezio. They really should. I mean, I understand that there was so much Ezio that there was no longer enough time in an Ezio's life for there to be an Ezio. But basically, they realized that they had a character in Ezio that they did not have in either of their previous 2 protagonists. And Desmond still isn't really much of a protagonist, if we're honest.
Yeah. He's alright.
Oh, no, he's alright. He just doesn't want to be a protagonist. That's canonically his shtick. I just want to be a person.
I just want to be a guy.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously this is the one that many people many fans will point to as like their favorite game in the series still, to this day, and it blew up big. Like it put Assassin's Creed on the map as like a huge like franchise that people would like get hyped for. So what are you guys' experience with that one, or that trilogy, I guess?
I played that one all the way to the end.
Yeah.
It was one of those games that I enjoyed the setting. I enjoyed the character of Ezio. I enjoyed the characters around Ezio. It had that right mix of adventure, intrigue, even humor, and it was all this. It tickled my history nerd.
It was just wacky enough too that all of the inconsistencies in history are just roll with it. Don't worry about it. Yes, Leonardo da Vinci made him a powered hang glider. Why not? It's fun. Deal with it.
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed has been so weirdly like it's not they're inconsistent about their dedication to historical accuracy. I think on different things, because some stuff they'll be like. I remember in Origins, they were like, oh, well, we, like, did all this research to figure out exactly what kinds of fruits could exist in Rome at this time, so that, like, the bowl behind Cleopatra, like, is full of the right fruit. And then, like, they'll have just, like you said, like, Da Vinci and stuff. Yeah. Like, Ardyn from Final Fantasy shows up. And which is, was still sort of a weird crossover event.
It was.
It's so... I don't know why they did Assassin's Creed and not something else Ubisoft. Because even if they wanted to do, specifically an Ubi crossover, there's so many other, I think, more fitting Ubi titles.
Yeah, maybe For Honor could have been one.
Yeah, or Far Cry.
Far Cry would have actually weirdly made a lot more sense.
Exactly. Like and
that is not based in reality in any way, which is like part of the series,
And if you wanted to do it, you could have done it during one of the drug trips that they love to put their main characters through. Like the entirety of Far Cry 5.
Yeah.
Yeah, but with Assassin's Creed...
I'm about to kidnap you for the 3rd time. Take these drugs.
Yeah.
But with Assassin's Creed, the crossover went both ways. So you had Assassin's Creed stuff showing up in Final Fantasy 15. You had Final Fantasy 15 stuff showing up in Assassin's Creed Origins. And on the other...
Didn't Final Fantasy 14, the MMO, have like an Assassin's Festival too that was like a raid event or something?
Yeah,
I believe
both
it
15
did.
and 14 did.
Yeah. And it would have, I think stuff like Far Cry or Rainbow Six would have been a lot harder to stuff into both of those games.
Yeah.
So Assassin's Creed just kind of by default, made the cut. It's like, okay, we need something we need something historical feeling, fantastic feeling, but not super modern feeling. Because because we blew all our budget on Coleman sponsorships.
So let's jump forward to Assassin's Creed 3. I've played only a few hours of that because I guess I didn't enjoy it. Was probably the reason.
But... the Black Flag demo was okay.
Assassin's Creed 3 was kind of a swing and a miss for them. It did commercially okay and critically wasn't very well received. But that one takes place in colonial America during the Revolutionary War, and that's when they started like going really heavy on the historical figures. It's like, but did you know George Washington was here at this time?
Assassin's Creed 3 is one of the ones where they like just said, "Oh, fuck it," with regards to history.
Yeah.
People are in places they never were, places at the wrong time when we know they were somewhere else. All sorts of things.
Yep. And I mean, like, I think that's fine. I honestly, I mean, I could be wrong on this, but I feel like the Assassin's Creed is historically accurate thing has been more from like fans than from Ubisoft themselves.
Yeah, no, and a lot of the thing is it's the joke of, this is the true history that, has been elided over. The thing is, it's like a lot of the times, some of them were just like really weirdly contrived. Specifically I think specifically the Emperor Washington DLC is what I'm thinking of as the most
I did not play
part.
that. What was that?
That was a bonus DLC that came out for Assassin's Creed 3, which posits an alternate scenario where George Washington goes mad and declares himself Emperor of America, and
after he gets the Apple of Eden.
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, that sounds kind of fun.
Yeah, I just think it would have been, and I think that their explanation for it was just sort of like, okay.
Yeah. That's like, fair enough.
We're doing the acid trip thing from Far Cry and bringing it into Assassin's Creed.
Yeah. But now let's get into the good stuff.
Yeah, because if they had set it as like a weird future vision.
Mm-hmm.
Or thing, but no, it's an alternate, like a legit alternate timeline that they wanted to suggest, and it's just sort of just Undead Nightmare that shit.
Okay,
literally have it all be a horrible dream that Connor's having.
All right, well let's go on to Black Flag, Assassin's Creed 4, which personally is I think just for the story is my favorite story from Assassin's Creed. I really, really enjoyed that game, and I think like you said, they fit in the modern day stuff pretty well into that. This features, Abstergo Entertainment, which is just Ubisoft.
Yep.
And it's a game dev office, and it runs under the pretense of they're running studies for a video game where you can experience, you can have your own little Animus at home. You can experience the memories of your ancestors, you're in there.
Who needs 23andMe?
Yeah, just go back and check it out. I've actually, I was really fascinated by that idea. Like, obviously, I would love to do that. For me personally, exploring ancient India would be super cool.
As a small aside, I just want to get on to how bonkers the science of the anima is, because it works because memories are in your DNA.
The DNA remembers, dude.
The DNA remembers, and so when your ancestor has sex and you are conceived, or your next ancestor in line is conceived, you can't go any further past that. So there's actually a bit in one of the spin-off games where Desmond is following along with Altair, and then suddenly you play as a female assassin, and he doesn't know why until he realizes that she's pregnant. And he's technically following along her unborn child. Oh.
I did not know about that one. That reminds me of something very quickly right now that I want to say before I forget. I don't know if you all remember with Assassin's Creed Valhalla, because like they said that Cassandra is like the canon protagonist for Odyssey. So people were asking like, okay, is like male or female Eivor for Valhalla the canon protagonist? And they said it's both. Check it out. There is so when you pick your character at the beginning of that game, they said like, oh, it'll make sense. It doesn't. At the beginning, you can pick between, when you're picking your gender, you can either pick male or female, or it says default in the middle, and it says that the excuse for this is that the DNA has forgotten what gender it was and will randomly remember different genders at different times. And so it'll just kind of swap you around between male and female, like, as the game goes, just unprompted by anything.
That is bizarre.
It is such a weird choice to make. Like, I mean, it's optional, so it's not that big a deal.
It's also, like, I mean, it is complete nonsense and bullshit, but then so is the entire DNA explanation.
Yeah, that's true. You're right. So, it's not even like they're doing, like, a gender fluid thing. This is a literal body metamorphosis we're talking about.
Yeah. It's like, I don't remember what I was.
I don't know. It was, yeah.
This is
I just keep
your
thinking of
history,
like,
but, you know, whatever.
I keep thinking of like Professor Oak popping up being like, are you a boy or a girl? It's like, I don't remember.
Also, the interesting thing is, knowing what I know about DNA encoding errors, like, if something got transcribed wrong, would, like, you know, Altair suddenly morph into a 50-foot kaiju and have to fight Rodan? And then,
if DNA worked the same way as programming, absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. You know, a bit gets shifted and he gets scaled, you know, to 5 times integer instead of 1, you know.
Yeah, if anyone is curious, breaks in it breaks in your DNA sequences, the ATCG thing in your DNA helix is what causes mutations. Mutations are generally not noticeable by like phenotypical responses. Like it's normally just a genotype thing. So like you probably do have a lot of mutations in your body, but like none of them have affected you in any like noticeable way, basically.
Well, technically speaking, it's whether or not you can tell them and whether or not we recognize them as mutations anymore. Because technically speaking, everything's a mutation, but a lot of them are just so common that we don't care. Like the ability of most Northern Europeans to process milk safely as an adult without any, you know, discontent, that's a mutation. But we like it.
Yeah, we like it. Well, that's just evolution, that those people fared better off and they, you know, they're past their mutations on.
Yeah.
So that was probably more science than Assassin's Creed has ever had.
Yes.
Black Flag.
We were talking about Black Flag, though. Thank you. So I really enjoyed the beginning of this game. So I'll make a full confession here again. Like I've mentioned in the past, I didn't really play many. I only had Nintendo consoles until 2015 when I got a PS4, I think, around then. And I remember I got a PS4 and like I've mentioned, like I pretty much just played Fallout 4 for a long time. And then I was like, I've heard of Assassin's Creed. Let me try this. And so the newest one, which was the one they recommended to me at the GameStop, I don't know why, was Syndicate. And I legitimately really enjoyed it. I loved Syndicate. I played it for like 40 hours. But after that, I went and got Black Flag because everyone on Reddit was like, "No, this is the one." And I was just like, I loved the opening of it, where like I kind of like thought like I was going to be playing as one character, and then they like sort of are like pretty subsequently killed by the real main character. You're like a privateer or whatever, Edward Kenway. I really enjoyed Edward as a protagonist, and I had a lot of fun with that story. I think it's like really fun, and you get those Pirates of the Caribbean vibes, man.
You absolutely do.
Yeah.
Also, the ship combat and ship mechanics from 3 come back and actually feel good.
I think they were
they're
very
usable
improved.
now.
Yeah, they were greatly improved from 3. I've been playing through Assassin's Creed 3 Remastered. I've been doing some of the ship stuff, and it's like, God, this feels clunky compared to Black Flag. And it's like, well, I guess they didn't remaster it quite as much as I thought they had. But yeah, the sailing portions were tremendous. I absolutely love just tooling around, listening to the crew singing sea shanties, and it's like,
Yeah.
I legitimately have friends who have never beaten the game because why bother? Boat.
I just want to sail around and drink rum.
Yeah, and it was so celebrated that Ubisoft spent the next 12 years making a game called Skull and Bones, which is still in development. That is a game, by the way, by the I believe the director of that game is the person who directed the ship combat for Black Flag, and they've been working on that game for I want to say it's been about 6 years now. It's been in development, so I'm not quite sure what's happening with it, but keep an eye out? ? It's basically just Ubisoft Sea of Thieves, from what I understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see how that goes. I don't know. What are your any other thoughts on Black Flag?
For me, it was very refreshing. I did like the idea that, okay, Edward Kenway is not born into this stuff. He's not, part of this grand conspiracy. He's just a guy trying to make a living, and he gets kind of sucked into this.
Get back to his wife, dude.
And he does, but he does grow up, and he does become a better person. Although he's still an assassin, or he does grow into the role of an assassin.
Right.
He realizes, okay, there are bigger things than just me dicking around with the English and stealing all their loot. There's bigger problems that need to be addressed, and I kind of need to figure out what I need. Am I going to be addressing this, or am I just going to hide and end up dead like all my buddies?
Right. I really enjoyed that, like having because like all of the assassin and Templar stuff is also like fresh to his eyes, and so I enjoyed seeing it that like from that perspective, where it's like somebody who didn't like grow up as like training as an assassin and whatever, and just like a guy who's like, all right, let's do some assassinations.
Yeah.
I mean, and like of course, I also was just looking at the timeline for that. I mean, I think that came out at the exact number of years where they were definitely inspired to do this by the first Pirates of the Caribbean, and definitely sort of ripped Jack Sparrow a little bit for him.
Oh yeah.
A little bit.
If only they didn't lent a little more into the Monkey Island, then we'd still be playing Black Flag sequels to this day. But
oh yeah, no, it went really well. Huge critical and commercial success, and I would point to that as my favorite, like quote unquote classic Assassin's Creed. Before the new ones. So let's jump over to everyone's favorite, Rogue.
I completely forgot this game existed.
Yeah, I think Ubisoft did too.
That's not even sarcastic. Like, I thought it went from Black Flag to Unity. And I thought that there was just a long gap, but...
I think Rogue is the only main series game I have not played. I have not heard good things about it. It's apparently during the 7 Years' War in North America. I have very rarely heard anyone talk about this game except to say that it was really glitchy and not fun.
Yeah. I have not had the opportunity to play it either, and the only reason I didn't was because Ubisoft, for some weird reason, decided, okay, we're going to release this game exclusively on the PS3. We're not going to bring it out to PS4. Why? Because we're Ubisoft. Screw you.
Yeah.
Why? Why
they
would
do
you
say
do
that
this?
a lot.
Yeah. I know people who work for Ubisoft, and they are still like sometimes, Ubisoft. Why? Why Ubisoft?
Why? That one was maybe not everyone's favorite, but Another fan favorite was next Unity, set in Paris during the French Revolution. Really well liked, did pretty well commercially and
Had some
commercially
glorious glitches.
glorious glitches as far as the eye could see. But I will.
In historical France during that time, people were so malnourished they couldn't afford to have faces, just eyes and teeth.
I still maintain, I think to this day, that the cinematic trailer for Unity with the announcement trailer is maybe my favorite cinematic trailer for a game ever. It is fantastic.
It was very well done, yeah.
Go watch that, because I think that one did a good job kind of like setting you in that time period and being like, this is what really happened during the French Revolution, and I was like, oh, you know.
I also remember there was a huge scandal because there was the multiplayer and it didn't have a playable assassin model, and they made a whole brouhaha about, it would take so much time to create a new model, make
was this the one with the female model? Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And honestly, they just sort of said, no, we don't want to do it. You're all identical. That's the point.
Yeah. Yeah, but there was famously one, I believe it was one of the someone on the development team who said that like, female bodies are too hard to render. Which was sort of something we still remember 10 years later, huh?
Yeah. And immediately in the next game, playable female character. I think honestly that was just an excuse of, no, we're saving it for the next game, but they didn't want to say we're saving it for the next game.
Yeah, it could be. Still a fun meme though. Good times.
They chose the worst way to say, no, we're not doing that.
My favorite thing about that was the day that came out was the same day that Nintendo like debuted Robin was coming to Smash Bros in both male and female form at the same time, which sort of was really exciting. So I don't know. Does anyone have anything to say about Unity? I feel like one thing I want to say is that I think you'll notice this with a lot of long-standing franchises where the fan favorite game that everyone fondly remembers as the best one moves every time a new game comes out, like it moves up one. So like before, when Odyssey was the latest game, I remember everyone online being like, oh, Black Flag was the best one. Oh, it's never going to get better than that. And after Valhalla has been out, like now, I'm seeing everyone on Reddit and Twitter being like, oh, Unity was the best game. It's never going to get that good.
That does happen sometimes, yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes it sticks. Sometimes it's always New Vegas.
Sometimes it's always New Vegas. But like I think I see that with Pokemon especially a lot. Like, because every time a new game comes out, it moves up one generation where people are lamenting like, oh, now everyone's like, oh, Gen 5 was the best one.
And I've always thought Gen 5 was the best one.
I mean, I believe you. I'm just saying like the general consensus though.
I would love for more Pokemon games to play around with their formula like that. Like, you don't have to do a big serious story, but do stuff like having the final showdown with the evil team being at the Elite Four. That was a great move.
Yeah, and man, it's hard. I don't know. Pokemon's difficult because every single generation has great things and bad things about it, and they just never are consistent about making one just 100% better than the last one.
Yeah, like Gen 5, the first game in Gen 5 had no post game, and then the second game had no story and all the post game.
Yeah, it was the post game.
It really was.
Yeah. So let's get on to Syndicate. So that was set in Victorian London, and that was the first one that I played. So you play as two twins, Jacob and Evie Fry, and you can switch between them at any time.
So you always play as Evie Fry.
You always play as Evie, absolutely. Evie might be my favorite Assassin's
She is a great
protagonist.
character. I've not really played any of Syndicate, but I've heard great things, and what I've seen of Evie makes it. I think she'd be really fun to just run around, and the map looks like it's really fun to run around in.
Yeah, the thing is that she has one power, which I don't know if. This is one of those things where it's like, okay, they're not trying really anymore, but one of her like final upgrade powers is that she can just completely become invisible. And like, I feel like it might be a little overpowered, but regardless, I really enjoyed the theming of Syndicate because like, so what you're doing is that you and your brother, or like I guess Evie and Jacob, are starting a gang called the Rooks, and we're basically running around Victorian England recruiting people for the gang, and everybody's like, like, the Rooks! And they just, like, start kicking somebody in a pub or whatever. It's hard to
we're
control
playing
them.
Watch Dogs Legion, but better?
It honestly might be better. It is actually very similar to Watch Dogs Legion, now that you mention that. But yeah, you can't recruit anybody, but you can recruit, like, a lot of people into the Rooks. And, like, you call on them when you're doing, like, when you're, like, invading a factory or whatever. You can, like, bring in your gang, and the people will come in and you're like, "Hey, what's going on in here?" And just start stepping on people.
Yes, so it's like the Brotherhood mechanics of calling in your backup.
Yeah. And so this one was just, like, really cool because the theme of it was, like, taking down the man. Like, this was Industrial Revolution England, everything is being run by these giant corporations. Children are working in the factories, their arms are getting cut off and tossed into the soup or whatever. And, like...
What? No, that would ruin the soup.
It would
not be... Yeah, come on. Waste of a good soup. Children's arms? Throw it in for the animal feed. Come on.
Yeah, like, Syndicate did a good job theming itself well, and having, like, the whole game was built around the idea of, like, destabilize the power of the corporations. And, like, this is, you can, like, start to see, like, okay, let's take down the man, let's get workers' rights. Like, you're basically, like, forming a union.
Yeah. Actually, you know what? In a similar vein, it would be really amazing to see? Not specifically Zorro, but a Zorro-like. And taking down, the corrupt Spanish landlords in, Spanish California.
To be honest, they could just reskin an Assassin's Creed to be like Zorro.
They really could, and that's basically what my thought was right there.
Yeah, okay.
Zorro is, he's a great assassin. He's even got the name in the panache. He can be the next Ezio. Don Diego de la Vega, the Zorro. I
think this one was sort of a wake-up call for Ubisoft because it didn't do well commercially or critically at the beginning. It kind of has become one of those things where, like, in retrospect, people were like, okay, that was pretty good. But at the time, there was a kind of a backlash against it.
I think a lot of the problem was people were getting super burnt out, especially after Unity was so glitchy on launch.
Yeah.
Because there's an adage that how good your game is not really reflected in its own sales, but in the sales of the next game.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah,
I mean,
and if you've played the Mega Man Battle Network series, like one of the worst games in the series is Mega Man Battle Network 4, but it sold the best because one of the best games in the series was the original ending of that series, Mega Man Battle Network 3.
Oh, okay.
Which was amazing. But Mega Man Battle Network 5, which was also amazing, sold terrible because Mega Man Battle Network 4 was terrible.
Huh.
And I think that's sort of how it was, because Syndicate it didn't really catch anything. It promised more of the same from Unity, and I think people were just sort of
they were definitely burnt out.
And sure. I was feeling burnt out because I didn't buy any of these.
Fair enough.
Yeah, after Black Flag, I was reading about Rogue, I was reading about Syndicate, I was reading about Unity. It's like, I have no desire to spend money on this. Like, I'm happy with my Black Flag. Let me just be a pirate. I don't need the Industrial Revolution.
And I think with Assassin's Creed, a lot of it is not just like, I don't want to spend my money on this. It's more like, I don't want to spend my time on this. It's these games are, like, not small. They've been packing them with stuff, for a long time. And I think that's a good segue into the quote unquote new Assassin's Creed games after they took a break for a year and were like, hey, let's do something else entirely.
Yeah, let's not do a single year dev cycle, which was, I think, part of why people were burning out so heavily.
Yeah, it's called Star Wars fatigue, I believe.
No, Call of Duty fatigue.
Yeah, it's definitely Call of Duty. Star Wars definitely had that fatigue, but no, it was...
Yeah, Call of Duty, but I feel like the difference is that Call of Duty still, like, is the best-selling game every single year.
Well, so is Madden, but it's within it is within a certain market segment that it is best-selling, and it's not necessarily representative.
And
Yeah. Okay, so so Origins, I love Origins, first of all. I think it was a great idea. So it completely reinvented the series from the ground up. It is a full-on RPG. There are skill trees, weapon types, crafting, weapon upgrades, slots,
You
all that
literally
stuff.
level up and get, unlock
Yeah.
that stuff, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you literally you get experience for killing enemies. There's like calculated damage. You have like stuff for your weapons that's like add like plus like 5.6% damage, like damage type to this weapon or whatever.
You can attack and dethrone God.
You can attack and dethrone God actually, which is really exciting at the end.
Yeah. And then Ardyn, and Bahamut show up, so of course,
Honestly, I wouldn't even be surprised if they made it in there.
No, they did. They did.
They literally did.
was that in Origins? They were
in Origins, yeah.
Oh, okay. I didn't remember that. Okay, so they were God. I think I played Origins after that whole thing happened, so that's why I missed that they were in that specific game. But
you go into a tomb in a particular pyramid, and Ardyn is just there chilling out, going, "Oh, hello, can I do something for you?" And then Bahamut shows up and goes, "No, you're due back in your own game, mister. We've got a world to end."
I hate this.
Yeah, no, it was kind of bonkers. It was like, okay, you have a puzzle you have to solve. You solve the puzzle. You go into the temple. Ardyn shows up. He smiles and he's being his usual smug self. Bahamut shows up in the sky and nukes the temple from orbit, takes out Ardyn, and leaves you with the ultimate blade. It's like,
and a chocobo.
Yeah.
Well, a chocobo camel.
No, it flat out was a chocobo.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It was a chocobo. Yeah.
It wasn't a camel. It wasn't a horse.
A camel. They called it a camel for the game mechanic, but yeah, it was just a chocobo.
Yeah. It's like,
wow.
Yeah, I was kind of looking at this and saying, and this was after the big promotion period. I picked up Origins not at launch, but afterwards, and I'm looking at this and I'm saying, wow, you guys actually spent money for this. but that said, Origins I did like, although I'm not liking it as much as I liked Odyssey. I am kind of wondering, okay, why did you go with the Ptolemies? Why did you not go back further? You all the really interesting pharaohs and whatnot are back during the Old and Middle Kingdom periods. And
granted, a lot of the political intrigue was with the Ptolemies, but yeah, there's a lot more interesting crap to do with the shenanigans, or the provable shit is with the Ptolemies, I should say. Whereas a lot of the old stuff is a bit more like, yeah, I did this awesome stuff.
Yeah, Ramses II was definitely a big on self-promotion, but at the same time, even the political stuff that is only semi-provable, you've got Hatshepsut, you've got Akhenaten, you've got Tutankhamun.
My genuine guess for that is because they wanted to fit Julius Caesar and Cleopatra into it.
Well, yeah. But yeah, that's
I think that I don't know. I think Caesar's like an interesting enough character.
They could have fit both of them into something later. I mean, they could have done.
I don't think so, because I think something happens to Caesar at the end of this one.
No. I mean, a different game.
Oh, that's fair.
Yeah,
because both of them were out and about at various points. Less Cleopatra, but definitely, Julio.
Yeah.
Julio.
Yeah, you could have done an Assassin's Creed triumvirate, and you could have, followed Julius Caesar.
That'd actually be that'd be a cool name.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that you could have done that and done all the Caesar stuff, but no, we want to be boring, and we're gonna set this in Egypt, so it has to be Cleopatra. That's you have bad taste in history, Ubisoft.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I really loved Origins. I like I feel like I agree with you in that the story didn't feel significant until we got close to the end, when Cleopatra's stuff started to kick in, because the Ptolemaic Egypt is not as exciting outside of, I guess, her story and her sort of escape, and like Julius Caesar being there and like escaping out of Egypt and all that in the middle of the night, and that was all like the last like 3 hours of the story of that game were really exciting, and then like I think the first part of it was maybe it could have benefited from some other historical stuff. Still, I did get excited about getting to go to a different continent for the first time. We got to go to Africa. Just not in North America or Europe for the first time, basically.
Wasn't there a side-scrolling game in China though?
Yeah, I didn't want to talk about it. Yeah, so
Fair
there's
enough.
Assassin's Creed Chronicles. There is a side-scrolling 2D platformer called Assassin's Creed Chronicles, and there's 3 of them. There's India, China, and Russia. They were all critical and commercial failures.
Yeah.
They were not good. So yeah, I think that's
Also, technically, part of the third Ezio games are in Asia, but only technically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just kind of
very
nominally.
technical.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, I think Odyssey probably has a lot of meat on it. So, I don't know. What did you guys think of Odyssey? I'll save my thoughts.
Go, Tim.
Yeah. No, I haven't really played a whole heck of a lot. I've only dipped in here and there on a friend's copy, but I do like that they're willing to go much more fantastic. I mean, they went whole hog with aliens are real as far back as the second game, and then barely did anything with the weird fantastical elements at all. I mean, and I haven't jumped into Valhalla, but I'm guessing that the bits with the Norse gods that they implied are also dealing with the aliens again. But no.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, okay. But no, I'm glad that they're dealing with like myth and history and mixing it all together, and technically leaving it up to chance whether or not it's just a glitch in the Animus or if it actually happened.
Yeah. I liked Odyssey. I'm a big. I grew up reading Greek mythology. Delaire's Book of Greek Myths was probably the book I checked out of the library as a kid more often than any other book you can imagine. And I enjoyed it. I enjoyed Odyssey tremendously because, okay, it is dealing with the, that period after the Persian invasions, but before Greece really started to fall in on itself with the Peloponnesian Wars. And, I liked the fantastic elements. Like I said, that idea of, okay, the great monsters are still out there, and oh hey, we get to kind of be our own Greek hero for a little bit. I know that this is probably going to be a little controversial, but I know canonically Cassandra was the hero. I wanted to be a contrarian and play it the other way with Alexius as the hero and Cassandra as Deimos, and that actually worked for me. To see Cassandra playing the villain and being just super pissed off.
I like her doing her villain voice for sure.
Yeah, she you began to, you got those hints of the really vindictive Greek deities and semi-deities. You have you see in Cassandra the personification of Hera. You see the Erinyes. You see Nemesis within her, and it's like, holy crap, this is she's not a scenery chewing villain, but she will absolutely wreck you, and I loved it.
Yeah, I think so it's an interesting sort of weird case in that I think that Cassandra and Alexios have the exact same dialogue. They have literally no differences in their characters. They are the same character, effectively, just depending on which one you choose to play. Yeah. The only real difference is the voice performance at the end of the day.
Well, that can do a lot to change the perception of a
Oh, it
character
can. Yeah,
using the exact
absolutely.
same
And
lines.
that's what I was going to point out is that, like, I think they did, like, both the voice actors did an excellent job, but I think they did a really good job. We're both, like, recording all of the lines in the game, basically, for both sides of that. And I do want to give a quick shout out in Valhalla, which I'm about I'm like 25 hours in, maybe.
So you're just out of the tutorial.
I was talking to a friend yesterday who was 10 hours in, and he's just saw the splash title screen. No, I really like the difference in performance in Valhalla. I feel like it's more pronounced. And the male actor is being very, like, he's like a very calculating, brooding guy who, like, takes his time and thinks before he speaks, and, like, the female character is, like, very brazen and brash and just kind of, like, yells and is ready to fight at any given moment, which I think is kind of fun.
So she's the berserker of the two.
Yeah, she definitely is, and I think he's more of like a tactical fighter. Yeah, but I guess I've segued us onto Valhalla. So have either of you dipped into that yet?
I have not.
No, it is on me and Kate's Christmas list, so we are
fair
holding off to see.
Yeah, it's a big boy. I got a review copy for it, and I really enjoyed it. Honestly, like, I think that whatever the target of the Ubisoft open world formula that they've used for every single game for the last 7 years is, like, I think they finally hit it. If not for the bugs, this would sort of, which this is extremely buggy game.
But if not for the bugs, how can it be Assassin's Creed?
Yeah, I guess so.
If not for bugs,
I do genuinely feel, though, that they have perfected their Ubisoft open world, and not to say it's a perfect open world, it's a perfect Ubisoft open world.
No,
it is the best version of that, for sure.
Kate and I have been playing, Assassin's Creed High School Edition, Persona 5.
Uh-huh.
Where you have to, because it's kind of built along the same way. Identify a target, figure out your route into, to assassinate them, or in this case, steal their treasure. Big boss fight. Shit happens. Proceed. Just with slightly more talking cats than usual in an Assassin's Creed game.
Yeah.
Only slightly more, though.
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed needs more talking cats, is what I'm saying.
That's fair. Okay, great. Yeah, do you have any, like, final thoughts on, like, the series as a whole, or, like, the direction it took, or I don't know, anything like that thematically about it?
I wish we'd seen more of the Abstergo game industry side of things.
Yeah, I agree.
Because they brought that up, and it seemed like the perfect excuse to just go anywhere they wanted. They could just take a game, didn't have to continue Desmond's story or the story, and just do a jump to a random point in history with somebody who was maybe an assassin, maybe a Templar, maybe unaffiliated, and just have wacky adventures, and then have some Abstergo stuff going on in the background.
Yeah,
but they really haven't done much of anything with it. It's all been
very peripheral.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I'm kind of actually torn a little bit on, between the old and the new. On the one hand, I liked the old, some of the old stuff. I was a big fan of the Ezio trilogy, big fan of Black Flag, and I liked the challenge that those games provided. I also liked how, I liked the environment that they set up. With the new trilogy, if you will, Origins and Odyssey and now Valhalla, which I have yet to play Valhalla, but if it is in any way similar to Odyssey and Origins, I think they maybe need to dial this, I kind of feel like they need to dial stuff back a little bit. They need to focus a little more, give me a story that that I want to follow to the end.
I will say that I think this game has done a good job of making the story a little more personal, because, like, it's interesting that I think that it's similar to a Black Flag thing almost, what they did, which is that Eivor is not an assassin, obviously. She's a Viking.
Yes.
But And Vikings historically haven't really done a lot of assassinating.
Well, I mean,
they
yes and no.
have.
They haven't.
I guess stealthy assassinating is what I'm thinking of.
Well, again, they're not known for it, but there are some actual great stories of glorious assassinations in the Viking history. But they're not known for assassinating other countries' people stealthily.
That's fair. Yeah, so this it's interesting because the assassin story does take place like in Valhalla. There is a big assassin story between like them and the Templars, but it's not Eivor's battle. You basically are assisting the assassins because your goals have aligned. In that like you want to conquer England and they want to remove those who are in power in England currently, these like, you know, disparate kings, because they are members of the Templars.
Because it's what, like 897?
Yeah, 897. Yeah. So England is currently England is currently 4 separate kingdoms at the moment.
Yeah, that's accurate.
And so there are like 4 different kings and everything. Which I was like, I guess I'm not up to snuff on my English history. I'm learning a lot actually.
From what little I know from the trailer, they're obviously going to take lots of liberties to make it more interesting, but they got the basics right. Like I literally guessed the time and the setting just from the few details they gave us. So
yeah. I think but like I was saying, I think the story is a lot more personal because the real struggle is between Eivor and her brother, like for like what we used to be, like who we are as Vikings, and like who this new world is trying to turn us into. And like I think that's really, I don't know, it's hitting with me. I have not finished the story part yet. I'm very close to the end, I believe, but
it's interesting because I don't think there wasn't a big cultural shift in the Vikings for those that moved to and settled in England, as far as
there wasn't. I guess I should say rather Sigurd, I think Sigurd Snake Eyes people know, the Viking, but yeah, Eivor's brother is this Sigurd, and he is kind of the chieftain of your new clan as you move to England. And he is sort of infatuated with the assassins and the pieces of Eden and everything, and he wants to become one of these. And he is like, he's basically willing to throw away everything that he and Eivor like grew up on, all of their beliefs and values, to be one of these like mythical assassins and achieve these great powers with the pieces of Eden. And so like it's like a familial struggle really between the two of them, and I think it's actually coming out quite nicely. Like it's worked out well.
It's a battle for your brother's soul against your brother.
Yeah, it really is, for sure. Yeah, so let's jump on to time for games. So today we're gonna do a little fun game of which is higher. So I'm just gonna list 2 things. One of them is gonna have something to do with Assassin's Creed, and then you guys are gonna try to guess which one is higher out of the 2 things. So, let's start off not too hard. How many pieces of Eden are there versus the Metascore of Assassin's Creed Chronicles?
I would probably have to say the Metascore. I know that there are something like 13 pieces of Eden, and I don't think as bad as Assassin's Creed Chronicles was. I don't think it was that bad.
I think the Metascore is going to be higher, but not by much.
It's actually not. There are actually 66 pieces of Eden that are referenced. Yeah.
Okay, but
only about 7 of them have been named or identified.
Okay, that might be it. Yeah.
Yeah. But somebody mentions offhand in Assassin's Creed 2 that there are 66 of them. The Metascore for Assassin's Creed Chronicles is a 60.
Okay.
Well, do better next time, guys.
So,
all right.
But it was close.
It was close, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So, no, when I said do better, I didn't mean you. I meant Ubisoft. I'm sorry. Okay. So the next one we have, how many total games in Assassin's Creed? This is including mobile games, spin-offs, all of that stuff. Versus
is it
how many
mobile remakes?
No, I did not include collections or remakes in this. And then that is versus how many Call of Duty games there are, again including mobile or spin-off stuff. No remakes or remasters in that, or collections.
I think it's Call of Duty, but again, there's so many, and I don't know which ones count as remakes or not.
Yeah,
But, yeah, I think I'll have to give it to Call of Duty on this one.
yeah. Call of Duty's a much older series. It's got a good 8 or 9 year head start on Assassin's Creed, even with the annual release schedule there.
Right. So. It is pretty close, but actually Assassin's Creed does win out with 30 games versus 24 from Call of Duty.
I am surprised.
Are you? Huh.
That was from my counting on the wikis. So
Okay.
I could have missed one here or there. I guess it's within margin of error, but
Yeah.
that was. I was also very surprised to see that there were 24 Call of Duty games that came out in the last when did the first one come out? Like 2002 or something?
No,
I think late 90s.
Yeah.
Late 90s, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but anyway, it's I think there's like having to discount like the remakes and stuff. I had to manually count them, so I could be off on that. All right, so we have now the box office of the Assassin's Creed movie versus the box office value of X-Men: Dark Phoenix.
Oh.
I'm counting at least 30 on just a quick one, not including, but anyways. So let's see. That is going to be a tough one. I'm going to actually say Assassin's Creed because the box office was better overall that year, and Dark Phoenix did notoriously flop.
Yeah, I would have to go with that one. I
believe Assassin's Creed was a financial success, but a critical failure.
That's correct. It was. Now, actually, Dark Phoenix did a little tiny bit better. Assassin's Creed got 241 million USD, and Dark Phoenix got 250 million.
Huh. Oh,
now,
just the domestic. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry. That's on me. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
I should have said that.
Yeah.
I believe that overall, Assassin's Creed did a little bit better on the world stage.
Yeah.
Okay, let's. I got to get this together here. I'm ruining the game. Okay.
No, it's okay. It's fun to think about. I'm not even worried about score.
How many copies sold of Assassin's Creed 2, the original one, versus Assassin's Creed 3? Again, just the original one. So, which one of those two sold more? Because I know, Tim, you were talking earlier about, like, the last game was really good. A lot of people are going to buy the next one. Did that happen this time?
I think it probably did. And I know there was a lot of hype going into 3, especially because of the America rah-rah. I will go and say that if we're just doing the first, though, because the thing is, though, the last game wasn't 2, it was Revelations. That's the thing. Now you've got me actually having to think about this, because if it was from 2 to 3, 3 probably would have sold more, but I'm going to say that 2 sold a little more than 3, because Revelation, I think, was flagging.
Okay.
It was on the downswing.
I would buy that, and also there is the kind of the lead time, if you will. People who were buying, who heard about 3 but figured, oh, maybe I ought to buy 2 and play that. So there, you've got that time between the original release of 2 and the original release of 3, where you've got players buying it later. I would probably say ultimately 2 would sell more, or would have sold more.
Yeah, you guys got it. So Assassin's Creed 2 sold about 9 million copies, and 3 sold about 7 million. Still really good numbers for that time period for games, though.
Oh, yeah.
For sure.
And coming off of, again, the slow, lingering death of the Ezio series, a pretty good showing.
Good retention on that. Not bad. All right, so it's our last one here.
Didn't Revelations sell, something close to 4 or 5? Way lower?
I would have to check. Let's see. Let's see. How many? As of February 15, 2012, they had shipped 7 million copies.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, that's about the same. So yeah, you're right. I guess they sort of retained people from the last game then.
Yeah.
All right, so here's our last one. I don't want to say anything. So, the total copies sold of every game in the franchise for Assassin's Creed versus the total copies sold of every game in the franchise for The Legend of Zelda.
Ooh. So there's overall a lot more games.
In The Legend of Zelda.
Yeah.
There's, if you count like every game that's sort of even in a tertiary way connected to Zelda, there's like 40 something.
Yes.
Yeah.
And some of them have been huge sellers, though again, they were huge sellers for their era, and a lot of those were very early on, because we've been giving fewer and fewer but bigger and bigger games more recently.
I'd have to go with Zelda on this one.
I'm going to put my faith in Zelda. I don't know if I'm correct, but I want it to be.
Oh, Zelda let you down.
So
these numbers are as of October 2020, but yeah, the total copies sold of Assassin's Creed is 155 million. Total copies sold of Zelda, 120 million.
Really?
Yeah.
That few.
I'm
good. It's
shocked.
Good disparity. Now, if you look back at the individual sales of Zelda games, none of them have actually been very good. Breath of the Wild actually debuted with like more copies sold than almost any other Zelda game. Like they when they sold, I believe that they hit 12 mil. When they hit 12 million, that became the best selling Zelda game in history. And yeah, a lot of even the more popular Zelda games have sold not very well. I think we also forget that Zelda sells extremely poorly in Japan. They, compared to their European and American sales, Zelda is not popular in Japan.
Weird.
Yeah, it is strange, but I mean, when you think about it, like the games have sort of always been, or at least since Ocarina of Time, like they kind of have been Western RPGs from the beginning.
And it's the same fate as Metroid, beloved by the West. And
absolutely, yeah. Metroid
and F-Zero too. The West doesn't know what to, or the Japan
now
doesn't really
I don't
know
even know if F-Zero is even still an extant series we can like discuss as a franchise though. Like
it's canonically part of the Metroid timeline, so we can, okay. But no. Canonically, if you want to do it, Star Fox, F-Zero, and Metroid, and maybe not Kid Icarus are all in the same shared universe because of crossovers and cameos and things like Metroid showing up in Kid Icarus, but everything might just fall into Kid Icarus anyways, and like everything falls into Kirby.
How do we fit this into Super Smash Brothers?
Kirby is the reason Super Smash Brothers can exist.
It's all happening in his stomach because he swallowed the universe.
Actually, no, it's all happening in his dreams. In a mirror in his dreams.
Oh, the amazing mirror in his dreams.
Actually, no. If you go in the Amazing Mirror game, you can fight Master Hand and Crazy Hand. That's one of the boss fights.
I don't think I got to the end of that. Okay.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. All right. This is, unfortunately, the Kirby episode will be later. We'll come back for Kirby. Well, actually, we'll definitely come back for Kirby.
It's always the Kirby episode. What are you talking about? Every episode is the Kirby.
I gotta say, just quickly, I love Kirby. I think Kirby Triple Deluxe is maybe my favorite handheld game of all time. Like, that was the 3DS one they made. I've played that 9 or 10 times. It is such a pleasant, relaxing time. It doesn't require anything of you. It doesn't ask for your attention or your skill or anything. It's just Kirby bouncing around, and it's a great time.
For me, Robobot's a little better, but I can absolutely understand why
I liked
Deluxe.
I think that I was burned a little by Robobot because I came right off of Triple Deluxe and went out and bought it, and I was like, this is the same game, but they added a robot.
That is fair. That is fair. I had a bit of time to just go, you know what I want? I want a little more of that Triple Deluxe itch to be scratched, and Robobot did that just a little bit better.
Fair enough. Okay.
And then there's the remake of Superstar Ultra, which is...
all right, let's jump forward and let's close out. So I want to talk a little bit. I think we may have, I don't know if we discussed this before at some point on the podcast, but this is the famous question. Ubisoft asks it every year, weirdly enough. Where should the next Assassin's Creed be? I don't know if any of y'all have answered any of those surveys they send out. I do. I think I've answered them for the last few years. Ubisoft puts out a survey every year asking where the next Assassin's Creed should be, like in what setting.
And then whatever answer they get, they decide not to do.
As far as I know, the reason they did Vikings is because that was the popular answer on the survey. But I think that was the first time it's happened.
Yeah. But also, I think they just decided, Vikings.
I mean, that makes sense, doesn't it? Okay.
Yeah. Let's set it in England. Why? Because they want Vikings.
Oh, when you're Vikings, you want to be doing raids, right? You don't want to be like sitting around in Norway just like eating fish.
Well, no, I think what a lot of people were wanting to do was to climb a lot of the features of Norway as the geography of it.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, you can still there still is a Norway map in Valhalla, and it's beautiful.
Oh, lovely. It's excellent.
There's actually 4.
I will continue to pine for the fjords then.
Yeah, there's actually 4. There's actually 4 maps that are split up in Valhalla, which I like a lot. Like, there's Norway, and then there's England, which is about, I would say, roughly 3 times bigger than Norway, and then there's Asgard.
Sort of the opposite of reality, but
yeah,
sure.
And then Asgard is sort of the same size as Norway, and then Jotunheim is like a very small map.
Interesting. We go.
Sorry.
So, I'm just it's odd to me that we're going to the home of the giants, the home of the gods, and then 2 real world places, but leaving out the 2 other major fantastical areas of Muspelheim and Niflheim.
Yeah, I don't know what. I guess it was just maybe time constraints that they couldn't make all of that.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, this game was definitely rushed out to meet the console launches 100%. So.
Yes.
Well, there was also
Same with
Valheim and Hell. So.
Yeah. Got all the God of Wars.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, when do we get to meet Kratos in Valhalla?
He's actually not there. I looked for him. It is pretty much just God of War once you get there, though. It's pretty much exactly the same game.
Dad of Boy.
Sorry.
Yeah. God of War is the old series. Now it's Dad of Boy.
I love Dad of Boy. So where were you guys thinking would be a cool setting / time period / maybe world event to set a game during?
Well, obviously Skyrim. Duh.
You want to set it during the Skyrim period of real history?
Yeah, exactly. You know, like Todd Howard keeps trying to tell us about. But no, actually, a real thing is I would like to set it not modern day, but nearly modern. Like I want to say Civil War or later, maybe, or Georgian era. Georgian era England would actually be kind of interesting with the quickly rising cities and both the political instability. You'd have new but not reliable transport and a lot of stuff to play with.
Yeah, actually, wait, I think you're sort of describing Syndicate because that did take place in like the 1870s.
I'm talking like
you want to be like 30... in America though, or
not necessarily in America, but I'm talking about like not cause that's still Victorian. I'm talking specifically the Edwardian era, like 1910.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay,
yeah, like right before World War One.
Okay, I think if we're going to 1910, I would love to be hanging around for the assassination of the Tsar Nicholas II, and the whole Anastasia. What if you just played as Anastasia and you're like, "Did you guys know Anastasia really escaped?"
Yeah, actually, no, that would be interesting. Play a game like set part of it right before, like set it all around in the Russian Revolution, the latest Russian Revolution, the communist Russian Revolution. Which, to give you a brief, lovely bit of Russian history, when I say the Russian Communist Revolution, that even doesn't narrow it down. There were several. It's amazing. Anyways, but with Anastasia and Rasputin and all of that, and I don't even know, I would love for Rasputin to be completely uninvolved in the Assassins and the Templars and just to be his own.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah. Okay, I got you.
Wonderful thing.
Yeah, he definitely needs to be in it. He can definitely be his own guy, for sure. 100%.
Yeah. I specifically would love to see the depiction of him that is growing in popularity of the ladies' man Rasputin.
Yeah, just with a gigantic penis. Yeah.
Yeah, like not a crazy madman, a little bit, crazy eyes.
Eccentric.
Yes,
eccentric.
Like, eccentric. Loves the ladies love him.
They love how he walked 400 miles in the snow.
Yeah.
Oh man, Rasputin's crazy, man. One thing that I would love to see, one of my ideas was, like I said, like I find the Russian Revolution of 1910, I guess, specifically fascinating. Was that 1912? Was one of those two?
You might be thinking of the 1917 one, which is the one that actually stuck.
Yeah, the October Revolution was in 1917.
What was it? Who was Lenin? Was that right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that was Lenin. Okay, that's what I'm thinking of.
There was the revolution in, I think, 1910, which is what led to reforms, but not the the taking down of the Tsar.
Right,
that was 17.
Okay. Yeah, that would be one cool place. Another one I've always thought of was like Middle Kingdom China would be really cool. Like the rise of these like disparate emperors and like all these different like factions and like all the espionage going on and
that Mulan game we always wanted but they never played.
Yeah. I'd love that. I'm really excited for the Mulan like live action tie-in game.
Just making a Muso.
Having a an Assassin's Creed set during Romance of the Three Kingdoms would be interesting to see. It really would, especially if the assassins and the Templars are moving around the Three Kingdoms and trying to say, okay, this is basically a giant Go match between who we support and who we off.
Right. One other one I would love to see is in ancient India in like the 300s BC, basically under Emperor Chandragupta, the one who like expanded and like made what we know like as India basically by conquering the whole rest of the kingdoms. I think that would be a really cool time period to explore, and I mean like I don't know, I think it'd be really cool to see the thing is you know what I've done here. The thing that I've done is that I've named the 3 settings that they wasted on the fucking Assassin's Creed Chronicles 2D platformers: India, China, and Russia.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Yes, you have.
Okay, I don't know. Maybe they can go back and reuse some of the protagonists or story or whatever from those, but sad.
Maybe.
Axel, what were you thinking?
A few thoughts kind of come to mind. The first would be setting Assassin's Creed in Central and South America pre-Columbian. Start playing around with the Mayans, the Olmecs,
Incan Empire, or Mayans. Okay.
Yeah. Maybe some peripheral contact with the Incans.
Yeah.
There's a lot of great people that you could have in there. Who was Pajacuti, I think, the guy who had his soldiers spring from the earth and claimed that the rocks were his soldiers, drank from his enemies' skulls, fashioned them, just literally took a fallen foe's forearm, stripped it of its flesh, and turned it into a flute. Pajacuti was
a skin flute. Okay.
No, a bone flute.
Yeah. I did mention that I would have liked, I'd have liked to have seen something in the Old and Middle Kingdom periods in ancient Egypt, pre-Ptolemies.
Yeah.
That would have, I think they could have tied in a lot more of the Isu more realistically, I think, in those time periods than they could have anywhere else. The only other area that might be interesting would probably be, I think, around Indonesia.
Interesting.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably touch on some of those Black Flag vibes again, but in a completely different setting. You could do it during the Mongol, around the time of the Mongol invasions into Vietnam, into the early Siam kingdoms. There's just so much potential in that region. It's like
another figure to focus a game around that would be really interesting. Alexander the Great. And all of his exploits, or Genghis Khan. Both of those just huge swaths of time and land and events.
Yeah, going with the rise of the Mongols and particularly Genghis Khan and what happened after he died.
Oh yeah, especially after his assassination. Yeah, make that an assassination and not just a slow death.
Right. Now I'm pretty sure Alexander the Great is in Assassin's Creed Origins at some point. Or is he mentioned or something?
He would have been mentioned because he he died centuries before the Ptolemies showed
Yeah,
up.
you're right. Yeah, like
So-
300 years before that.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, I think I remember him being a part of the plot for some reason. Like they kept.
It might have been.
Oh,
something
I think his tomb was actually part of the plot.
that would make sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because he
yeah.
died in Alexandria. Which Alexandria? Oh.
Nobody's the one without the library.
Yeah. Well, they're all the one without the library now.
But, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, all right. Well, yeah. Let's close up. So thank you guys for joining us today. Thank you to Todd Howard for inventing Skyrim, which in turn invented Assassin's Creed Valhalla, because it is pretty much the same.
So actually, that does bring up a small point. I want to mention that I think the reason why the most recent couple games have switched over to the heavy RPG format was because The Witcher did so gangbusters.
Yeah, they definitely copied a lot of mechanics from The Witcher 3. And again, that's not like a bad thing. Like, you know, you see success
but
and you
it's
build on
obvious
it.
where their inspiration
Yeah,
was.
for sure. So you can find us at GameLuster.com. We have cool videos up on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/GameLuster. You can find me on Twitter at Gandeezy, GANDHEEZY. Oh, and hey, we have a Twitter account for GameBusters now, so you can go find us at GameBustersPod on Twitter. And so thanks, guys. Do you guys have any plugs for anything you're working on?
Well, Kate and I are still plugging away at console tours.
Okay.
By the time this episode goes live, the next one should be out. But we're covering the real life inspirations for fictional towns in video games, and we're covering Sinnoh and its real world inspiration Hokkaido on console tours at the moment, and we're also slowly but surely doing Introduction to Plumbing 035, where I introduce Kate to all of the mainline Super Mario games, because one, several of them are older than Kate, and she's never played any of them. And I want to correct that.
Yeah. Very good.
Just as a minor aside, GameLuster is looking at improving our content. We're going to be bringing up some new top 10 lists in the near future. We're also looking at adding some quizzes to the site, so there will now be a little bit of interactivity and maybe a bit of snark for your choices.
Lots of snark.
Yeah.
Let's be honest with ourselves.
So and personally, I'm working on NaNoWriMo, trying to crank out a new novel. So.
Okay, nice. All right, so Axel, I think you were the winner because of how you rigged our game. Would you like to close us out with your signature catchphrase today that you say every time?
Be good to each other, or I will not be good to you.
Be excellent to each other.
Or else.
Or else.